It's also, when you have 5 kids, it's also hard to find out who broke something in the house, right? So I told my kids that Daddy took a crime scene investigation class, and I know how to gather evidence and clues to determine exactly what happened at the scene of a crime. So I'll pretend that I'm dusting for prints, and I'll say, aha! Who wants to be fingerprinted first? I usually get admission field. It works like a charm. But it's wonderful having all our kids. You know, our 14-year-old, Justin, he loves video games like every teenage boy does, and he loves watching TV. Really doesn't do much else. I always have to tell him to do his homework and clean his room and take a shower. He doesn't do a whole lot. When he does, he's got 2 speeds, slow and stop. And I told him if he was a rapper, he'd be lazy. And how long does it take for Anyway, so anyway, our 9-year-old Jared, I'm sorry, see, you can't remember the names, right? Anyway, our 9-year-old Jared, very popular in school, very well liked. We're preparing his birthday party, and we're going to take kids to this arcade, and it was going to be about $20 a kid, you know, for food and tokens and things like that. So I gave him 10 invitations. I said, Jared, invite 10 of your friends, okay? And so the day of the party, you know, his friends started arriving, one after another, after another, after another. Soon there were 20 kids there. I said, Jared, I gave you 10 invitations. Why are there so many kids here? He said, well, after I gave the last one out, the kids looked really sad because I didn't give them one, so I made copies on the copy machine. And I laughed, and I laughed. But it wasn't $200 funny, I'll tell you that. Our 5-year-old, Caitlin, talks with a Jersey accent. Now, I'm originally from New Jersey, but I don't know where she gets it from. You know, she says things like water and dog. And the other night she said that her brother pinched her. And he said, no, he didn't. And she said, you're a lawyer. And my wife said, honey, you mean liar, not lawyer. And I said, honey, don't confuse her. It's the same thing. That's for Steve. Anyway, our 4-year-old Madison has a little bit of a speech impediment. She has difficulty making the K sound, so she substitutes it with T. So she calls Caitlin Taitlin. She calls Michael Mitel. And it's really interesting when she tells people how much she loves Hello Kitty. Every time she says that, it reminds me of Janet Jackson's performance at the Super Bowl. So the other night she ran and she said, Mommy won't give me a Tootsie. And I said, why won't she give you a cookie? She said, "'Twas she's tooting dinner." I said, well, go tell Mommy that's bullshit. Well, she did, yeah. I don't like to bother my wife when she's cooking. You know, she's a great cook. She really knows her way around a microwave. You know who's a good cook? My grandma. My grandmother was such a great cook. I remember when I was on deployment, one of the things I mentioned to one of my buddies was how much I missed my grandmother's cooking. So when we got back from deployment, I invited him over. I said, don't eat a thing. She's such a great cook. I want you to be starving. So he showed up and he was famished. And she was on the phone, so he was sitting in the living room and he was just eating peanuts out of the bowl on the coffee table, and he was eating them, and he was really hungry. And when she came out, he said, listen, I'm sorry, I ate almost all the peanuts in the bowl. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. Since I got my dentures, I can only suck the chocolate off them. I don't know why he lost his appetite after that. But anyway, my wife is a wonderful cook, and I help her cook. I help her cook. Well, she asked me to open jars for her. Apparently that uses an entirely different set of muscles than the ones used for slamming doors. That's the only thing that bothers me about my wife. Is she's a little jealous and she can be a little paranoid. Sometimes she calls me at work and she's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm at work. And she's like, well, what are you doing? I said, work. And she said, well, what do you want for dinner? I said, well, I don't know. I just ate lunch. I can't even think about eating. She's like, well, when are you going to be home? I I'm like, I don't know. It's like she's trying to keep me on the line long enough for the police to trace the call. Like, I'm thinking, you know, she's a little. Anyway, but she's really paranoid. She's really paranoid and jealous around that time of the month, if you know what I mean. She always seems to know like what I'm doing and where I am. It's like she's got PMS GPS. And I've talked to her about it too. I said, honey, you know, I wish you weren't so jealous all the time. I mean, don't be so paranoid. You know, I love you. There's no reason to be jealous or paranoid because it really bothers me. I'm just glad my girlfriend's not like that. My wife really is terrific, and she does sometimes get me in embarrassing situations, even though she doesn't mean to. For instance, I went to the supermarket the other day to get some bagels for breakfast, and I said, honey, do you want anything? And she said, yeah, would you get me the newest issue of Cosmo? So I said, of course. And so I'm at the store, and I'm picking out the bagels, and she calls me and she says, the baby woke up with a diaper rash. I can't find a Vaseline. Can you get some Vaseline? And I said, yeah, sure. So I got this one you get early. So anyway, so I took should I even finish or what? So anyway, so I get to the checkout counter and I put the Vaseline down, I put the bagels down, I see the magazine rack and I grab the Cosmo and I set it down. And then I see the cover story says, spice up your sex life, have erotic sex with food. And so I realized the combination of the article, the bagels, the Vaseline, it's a little unusual. But I figure, you know, the old lady at the cash register, she's not going to put that together. So I pay for my food and the teenage girl bags it. And as I take the food and I start to walk away, I hear the teenager say to the cashier, sicko. So I can't go back there anymore. My wife does most of the food shopping, although she's been raving about this one place. Maybe you've heard of it, Fresh and Easy, right? She's been raving about it. So I stopped there on my way home from work the other day, and I'm walking around, I'm like, wow, this stuff really is fresh. And when I started walking out towards the front, there's like nobody to check out with. There's no cashiers or anything. So I just walked down. I was like, well, that was easy. Another thing that embarrassed me the other day, I came downstairs in the kitchen in the morning and I saw my two girls were on the kitchen table with glue and glitter all over the place, and I'm like, oh God, my wife had given it to them before she left. And I said, girls, this is a mess. You got to clean this up. Just, you know, I'll clean it. Just go into the bathroom and clean up. And so they did, and I started to clean up, and I realized I was late for my doctor's appointment. And so I grabbed my clothes, I went into the bathroom, I took a quick shower, I started to dry off, and I drove down to the doctor's appointment. And I got there, and the nurse said the doctor will be ready to see you. And I walk in, and this doctor is just this beautiful female doctor. And she asked me to pull my pants down. And I'm not shy, so I started pulling my pants down, and her eyes just grew open wide. And then I looked down, and I noticed that the front of my underwear was covered with glitter.